Hello, good evening, and welcome to Small Home Comforts. My name is Beth, and I'm here in my book corner, here to chat about some old-fashioned comfort reads, like we typically do on Thursday night. So I thought we would talk about Patricia Wentworth this evening, who was a mystery writer in the middle of the 20th century and has written some of my favorite mystery titles. You've heard me talk about her before, but I thought we'd go a little bit more in depth, and also, I thought I would share some of the book covers that I have on my shelves of hers with you tonight. So, welcome. Like I said, we're getting cozy in here this evening. I'm going to start some technical things like I normally do here so that all the places can see us. So, if you are here, I would love to say hello to you. Let me know in the comments that you're here. We will start with our tea per usual on our Thursday evenings. So I'm drinking out of my Jane Austen mug tonight. I am drinking Earl Grey. You probably all know this is my favorite. I love Earl Grey. And tonight it is a new to me one. One of my subscribers, Jacqueline, sent me a Earl Grey to try. So this is a new me Earl Grey, which I am enjoying. So that's what I've got tonight. Let me know what you have, and I'm going to come over to the comments and say hello. How's everyone doing this evening? It's been a couple weeks, right? Unless you were a subscriber. Last week, we had our book chat about the fall book box. But if you're not, then it's been a couple weeks. So hello, Teresa. Nice to see you. Megan is here tonight. Hello. And Martha is here and Ashley is here. Somebody said to me that she feels like we're all sitting here and it's like on Romper Room. Where we all say hello. And I just thought that was so funny. So I want to make sure everybody feels seen so that we can all be here together. So Marilyn is here and Susan is here. Let's see what you're drinking tonight. Martha is drinking a chocolate hazelnut chai. Oh my gosh, that sounds delicious, Martha. Oh my goodness. And Karen is here. Hello, Karen. She's drinking raspberry tea. And Marilyn, ooh, this is an interesting one. Sweet Woodruff chamomile green tea. I'm trying to think what that must taste like. Neon forest. Oh, how fun is that? Megan is drinking Bengal spice tea. Spice tea is perfect for this time of year. And Ashley is drinking Harney and Sons Vanilla Camoro. Ooh, I've had that one too. That sounds perfect for this time of year too. So I'm going to check over on Instagram. Not a lot of people come in on Instagram. Almost everybody's here on YouTube, which is much easier viewing. But I started on Instagram, and so I feel like I have to. I still want to continue. I don't repost the videos there anymore, so all of my replays are on YouTube, but it's nice still to be able to connect with everyone that I've made connections with over here. So Megan is saying that she has had the Romper Room as well. So I never watched Romper Room myself, but I had to look it up just to see, like, I've heard of it, and I wanted to see. And so I almost thought of getting the magnifying glass. Wouldn't that be, oh my gosh, so fun. Anyway, here we are at Small Home Comforts Book Corner, aka the Romper Room. Oh my goodness, so funny. Melissa's here. Hello, Melissa. No tea. She's already brushing her teeth and getting ready for bed. Awesome. You know what? That is another thing that, when I chose this time originally, way back, when I very first started it, I did this in the late morning and I called it 11s, and so that we could have our tea and everything together. But it was just not a great time to do it in the middle of the day. I wasn't, this was when I was very new and I wasn't really sure what worked for everybody. And so after a few weeks of that, I switched it to the Thursday evenings. And so far, that's been working. I know it's different time zones, but I feel like, since you don't have to be on screen necessarily, you can get in your jammies and still have a cozy book chat. So anyway, that's why I've kept it at this time for me. So Barbara is here. Hello, Barbara. She loves Bengal spice as well. And Susan says that Miss Nancy of Romper Room was her favorite. Oh, look at all the Romper Room love. Karen too. She grew up with Romper Room. Kelly is here. Hello, Kelly. Oh my goodness. This is just so fun. This is one of the reasons I love doing a live a live where we can all like kind of get together and get cozy together. So, all right, after that a fun little intro, I'm going to segue right into the books I want to show you tonight. So I thought we could talk about Patricia Wentworth tonight. You all know I talk about Miss Silver quite a bit when I talk about mysteries, and it's getting close to the end of fall, right? We're getting into the holidays next week, and so I thought one more talk about mysteries before we kind of segue into a new season, even though technically it's still fall, I know, but it still feels like a new season. So I thought we could talk about Patricia Wentworth and um, and some of her mysteries. I have books from my shelf that I have been hinting at before that I've been dying to show you, and so I pulled them down today to do so. So. I think, let's see, let's start with her very first Miss Silver book. So she didn't start with Miss Silver. Patricia Wentworth, I have some notes here so that I don't get any of the facts wrong. But Patricia Wentworth was born in 1877, and she started writing mysteries as early as 1910. So she was really kind of more towards the beginning of the 20th century. And so 1910 is a little bit early, but um, I was thinking about, I think the first Agatha Christie book was like 1919, 1920. Maybe it was 1920. I think the Mysterious Affair of Styles was 1920-ish. So this isn't like that much earlier than that. And in the earlier years of mystery writers, of crime writing, they did do a lot more kind of thrillers. So if you're familiar with Agatha Christie's Tommy and Tuppence, which I love, she only did 4 Tommy and Tuppences, but the first one was, oh gosh, I'm blanking. I want to say 1919 or 1920, somewhere around there. And there were a lot of like they called them thrillers, or somebody, let's see, what are they were called shockers. And so rather than being like a cozy whodunit, they were more spy rings and adventures and mysteries, in that not necessarily murder mysteries, but mysteries in that they were um more along the lines of suspense. Something's going to happen, we're not sure who to trust, and kind of solving all of that, rather than some of the later cozies were more like murder mysteries, whodunits, where they're like, you know for instance, like in the house, they're in a country house manor, and they, it can only be one person, and there's one victim and one killer, and or sometimes they're on trains, or you know what I mean, like those kind of whodunits. So some of the earlier ones, and Patricia Wentworth did this as well, were um more of this kind of thriller, shockers kind of thing. And so not her first book, but her first Miss Silver book is The Gray Mask. I love this edition. I love this pink and this kind of navy-ish. This is a newly republished one within the last few years from Open Road Media is the publisher of this one. But this one was her very first Miss Silver, and this one came out in 1929, I think. 28, I'm sorry, 1928. And this one is a lot more like more that way, more of like a thriller-esque kind of rather than a murder mystery whodunit. And then the next Miss Silver was not published until like 9 years later. And so at that point is when Miss Silver kind of transitioned into a more of like a cozier whodunit kind of a thing. So this one is a little bit more thriller-esque, but this has what's the word? I'm searching for a word. This has the distinction. That's the word I'm looking for. This has the distinction of being the first novel by Patricia Wentworth that Miss Silver appears in. So I like that I have this one on my shelves because it's a fun one to be able to see Miss Silver for the first time. She doesn't play a huge part. She is a lot of Miss Silver's books. I mean, Patricia Wentworth's books. Sorry, were kind of revolving around because she wrote a lot of standalone novels. So they're kind of revolving around that the protagonist is either a male or female, and they're kind of revolving around them. And some interesting things about Patricia Wentworth's writing is that she often has an element of romance in her books. In fact, almost always. I don't know of one that that she doesn't. Now I haven't read them all, but I have read a good amount of them, and there's always some um, little romance going on, usually between the main character and someone else in the book. So, but with the Miss Silver ones, that element is still there, and then there's often kind of a very main character or a couple main characters, and there's often a romance kind of going on there. So, I was doing a little digging to see, what kind of set Patricia Wentworth apart from some of the others. And this was a distinctive thing about Patricia Wentworth. She was writing at the same time as a lot of other, um, a lot of other like like almost like hard-boiled, detective stories. So, like, if you think, like, if you've ever heard of Dashiell Hammett, he's an author who wrote The Maltese Falcon, and he also wrote The Thin Man, and, while those were made into movies, um, I read those books several years ago, but there's kind of like this hard-boiled, noir kind of feel to those kind of books, and Patricia Wentworth was writing at the same time, and so hers have kind of that softener, of the romance, there's a little bit more of an emotional kind of, feel to them so that it lightens it quite a bit. So while they're still there's the suspense ones, and there's kind of these thrillers, they're not that hard boiled, almost harsher feel that some of the other of her contemporaries were writing at the time. So I thought that that was kind of fun. Also, there's a lot of element of humorous, funny elements in in these Patricia Wentworth books, which is kind of fun. There's always the love interest, like I said. They just have kind of more of a feminine feel. Miss Silver herself, like as a character, appeared right around the same time as Miss Marple appeared, so kind of another spinster detective. And I even saw a note that Miss Climpson, if any of you have read the Lord Peter Wimsey novels, Miss Climpson is a character in one of those who helps Lord Peter with his investigations, and she's another kind of spinster sleuth. She's not the main sleuth in the Lord Peter ones, obviously, because Lord Peter is, but she does appear, and they all kind of appeared right around the same time, that 1928, 1929-ish year. So that was kind of a fun note. But I see you're saying in the comments here, Megan has said she still has yet to read Patricia Wentworth, and Marilyn says she has it queued up on her Kindle, but can't seem to get to it. There's just so many titles, right? In fact, later on, I'm going to talk to you about my mood reading this month, but so many titles calling to us. But I do love Patricia Wentworth's writing and her Miss Silver books specifically. Miss Silver was somebody who she was a former governess. This character is a former governess, so she has like this insight into people's behaviors and why and motivations and why they're doing what they're doing. And she sits there and she knits while she kind of figures out what's going on. Some of the other running gags, let's just call them running gags, in her books, aside from the knitting, she's always knitting for her niece Ethel and Ethel's little children. And Ethel, subsequently through the books, she's always seems to be having more babies or sending her children to school, so they need new jumpers and socks and booties and like all the things. So you don't have to read the Miss Silver books in order. They are, you know, you can read them in any order. There's no like progression other than like these little things like this, which really make no difference to the plot. But just so fun. Like I said, she sometimes doesn't play a big role, like I said before, but when she does come, there's always like this little cough, ahem. So I don't know if she uses this cough to communicate, and and sometimes it's kind of like a quelling of what people are doing, or kind of like a question as to their behavior. And it's kind of like a running gag through the whole thing. How many times is Miss Silver going to cough in this one? Apparently, according to one blog that I read, she never she never goes further than 30 coughs per book. So apparently somebody went through and started counting the number of times she coughs, because this is like some kind of running joke between the knitting and the coughing. And then she always also is quoting and reading Tennyson poems, which is also kind of another little fun element of Miss Silver. So knitting, Tennyson poems, and coughing seem to be her thing, which is just so funny. She's so fun. But she wrote, Patricia Wentworth wrote, let me see how many here, 32 Miss Silver books between the years of 1928 and 1961. But like I said, between the first book and the second book, there was like 9 years. So most of them came between 1937 and 1961. And then she wrote 34 non-Miss Silver books. So she had another couple other series books. The Frank Abbott series, I think Frank Abbott, who does appear in the Miss Silver books, but he had two of his own. Ernest Lamb had three of his own. He also appears in the Miss Silver books. And then there was another one called Benbow Smith. Four of those in the series, and the rest of them are standalones. So I do have a standalone here that I want to share with you. But first, I'm going to come over to the comments, because we've got some comments going out in the chat. So Barbara says, is Miss Silver an earlier version of Mrs. Polifax? They sound familiar. I have a Miss Silver waving at me from my shelf. Um, Mrs. Polifax was a lot more adventure, spy, traveling, kind of international, uh, what am I trying to say? More of an international feel. Mrs. Polifax is always going to other countries, and having like international relation, like, you know, kind of dealing with international relations. Miss Silver is more similar to Miss Marple, where she does do some traveling, like, Miss Marple always has that Saint Mary Mead or Margaret Mead, or whatever I can't remember what her town is. Saint Mary Mead, I think, is Miss Marple's town. And she sometimes goes out of it, and oftentimes she's in that town. I would say Miss Silver is more similar to that. She doesn't have that small town, but she has her home. And they talk about the home in almost every book. And then she goes to visit people. So whereas Miss Marple is kind of an amateur sleuth, Miss Silver is one where they come and hire her. So she's an ex-governess, but she's kind of set herself up to be a consultant, sort of, a private detective, sort of. So a little bit different than Mrs. Polifax. Susan is saying Miss Silver is so wonderful. So Susan has experienced Miss Silver as well. And Melissa is saying, that's so interesting. She didn't realize Wentworth wrote in the 1920s. Yes, she did. So she passed away in 1961. So it's a lot more towards the earlier years. And the ones that she wrote in the 20s, again, were more of those thrillers. So I want to show you, though. So of course, honorary mention to my very favorite Miss Silver, which is Miss Silver Comes to Stay. This is a cozy. If you've never read Miss Silver, this is where I would start. It's, I think, like the 16th book in the series, but like I said, you don't have to read them in order. If you're looking for a cozy mystery, um, this is a cozy. If you're looking for more of like a thriller, this one is more of a thriller. And I've got this one, which is a standalone. And if you saw my, if you're on my newsletter, my weekly newsletter, or if you are have seen me on Instagram, I have been talking about this one. And I loved it. So this one is called Weekend with Death, Patricia Wentworth, A Golden Age Mystery. This is a Dean Street Press edition. Isn't it awesome? It's so gorgeous, and I love it so much. But this is a standalone one. And this one I just read last week, and it was the first standalone one that I had read. Before this, I read only Miss Silver, and I'd been wanting to get to a standalone of Patricia Wentworth's. And I have a very dear friend who found this for me and sent it along. And I dropped everything and read it. I loved it. I loved it so much. So this is about Sarah Marlowe. This one was written in 1941. Sarah Marlowe is a young woman who has to work for her living, and she is secretary to a like a, I forget what they called it. It was almost like a supernatural happenings kind of society that this person created by himself. So it was a brother and sister duo who the sister thought that she could get like psychic revelations or something, and the brother was kind of like looking into that kind of hauntings and things like this. And anyway, she's the secretary, and she thinks the whole thing is ridiculous, and but she just needs a job because she has to um support her old nanny who took her in when both of her parents died. So Sarah Marlowe was an orphan. Her old nanny took her in when she didn't need to. She feels a sense of obligation to this nanny, and so now she's found a job and she gets paid to be the secretary to this very eccentric couple, and she then uh, goes on to run into in the very first chapter. She's on a train, and no, I'm sorry, not on a train, in the waiting room waiting for a train, and she runs into like this fussy older lady who is supposedly like nondescript, and she's like going on and on about some kind of mystery or whatever. And Sarah Marlowe is kind of like, I don't really want to get involved. She doesn't say that, but she kind of, that's how she feels. And the next thing she knows, her train is coming. The other lady's train is coming, and she grabs her handbag, her purse, and rushes to the train. And the other lady rushes to her train, and off they go, never to see each other again. And then Sarah Marlowe discovers that there's something in her purse that she didn't put there. And then the next day or 2 days later or whatever, finds out that the lady that she met in this waiting room has been murdered on the other train, and realizes that she was murdered for the thing that is now in Sarah Marlowe's purse, or that she found in her purse. And it kind of goes from there. There is, of course, a bit of a love interest. There is a lot of like suspense and what's going to happen. And it is delightful. It was so good. It was not a cozy. Definitely not a cozy, definitely more of the a thriller, even though it was written in 1941. So it doesn't, it references the war, but it's not like a World War. I wouldn't call it necessarily a World War II title. It references it, but it doesn't, other than certain details, it doesn't really go into it. So like I said, talk about mood reading. This came into my life and I dropped everything and read it. I totally went rogue for my November TBR and finished it in a couple days. So delightful. Weekend with Death. Martha is saying, can you think of a Miss Silver books that was set during the winter? I would have to look, Martha. I cannot remember off the top of my head which ones, but I'm about to show you the let me find out for you, Martha, and get back to you because I can't remember. This one here was set during the winter. I want to say like January or February, something like that. Again, though, it's not a cozy, it's more of a thriller, but it was very cold, cold weather, talking about coats and jackets and stuff. So that was definitely a winter one. But a Miss Silver one, I'm gonna have to get back to you, Martha. I'm not sure about that. But I do want to show you the covers of the ones that I have. So these covers are from the 1990s. early 90s, I think. And and I just thought it was so fun. So I thought I would show you all of these covers. So this is Miss Silver Deals with Death. So interesting, isn't it? Different than the time period that they were written in. So I have a whole stack here. That one was Miss Silver Deals with Death, and I put them in publication order. So these range anywhere from 1944 all the way through the 50s. So this one is called The Key. They look kind of like this Art Deco looks a little bit like the 30s, doesn't it? This one is called The Case of William Smith, and they're like a whole set. I don't have every single one of them, but I love the little here's the Catherine wheel. I remember that one. I remember reading that one. So I read a lot of these on ebooks before I even had any of these physical copies. The Ivory Dagger. And I love looking at the little blurbs on the bottom. So this one says, Miss Silver is one of the most likable of the spinster detectives. And this was from the New York Herald Tribune. Some of these say, what does this one say? Fine stuff, financial skullduggery, and lots of love. That was from the New York Herald Tribune book review. Financial skullduggery and lots of love. I love it. This one says from the Daily Telegraph in London, Miss Wentworth is a first-rate storyteller. And this one from the Manchester Evening News, Miss Silver has her place in fiction as surely as Lord Peter Wimsey or Hercule Poirot. This one is Through the Wall. Oh, I've got the and this is Miss Silver Shines. Look at this. This is like an old price tag. It looks like it was $4 in 2001. So Miss Silver Shines was the endorsement on this one. Vanishing Point. And the endorsement on this one is altogether a reasonably neat puzzle with a decent note of romance for those whose interests lie that way. That's from the New Yorker. Love these little blurbs. And then the last one I have is the Allington Inheritance. And this blurb says from the Chicago Sunday Tribune, realistic countryside drama of greed, desperation, and a thread of romance. And you can see right here the old car. So, isn't that fun? So I have been wanting to show that to you guys for such a long time. I've had them on my shelf, and I thought, I think I've told you about it a couple times. So tonight was the night. I finally was like, okay, so that is all the Patricia Wentworth that I have on my shelves. Those ones and those three here that I found. And I'm trying to see, is there anything else? No, I think I went over everything. Let's see this here. Mm, AI says at least one Miss Silver book by Patricia Wentworth, The Clock Strikes 12, is set in winter and specifically around New Year's Eve. There you go, Martha. Maggie answered your question for you. That's perfect. Thank you, Maggie, for doing that. Um, yeah, so perfect. There's something to look into for the winter one. Maybe I'm going to look into that too. That sounds good. Susan says her copy of The Lady's Bane has that same type cover. Fun, right? I like to see all the different covers. I remember when I had for the book box, Miss Silver Comes to Stay, I went back and looked at all of the old covers, and there was such fun covers to look back on and see. There were so many different ones. Barbara says those covers remind her of the title sequence from the David oh my gosh, Suchet Poirot from the 1990s. Yes, where it like I can hear the music now. Oh, I love those ones. So Martha is saying wonderful collection. So fun. So obviously I don't have all of the 32 of the Miss Silver ones, but I'm going to be working on my collection, of course, because I love Miss Silver. So, all right. Well, shall we segue right into what we're currently reading as we finish? Oh, wait, Marita over on Instagram is saying she's definitely adding Weekend with Death to her TBR. It was so good. It was so fun. And this cover, like, I am so thrilled to have this for my shelves. So I'm going to be looking for more of her what do you call it? Standalones. That's what I'm trying to say. I lost my train of thought. So, all right, I am going to take a sip of tea and then we'll talk about what we're reading now. So, if you would like to share in the comments what you're reading now, I would love to share with everybody. I'm going to take a sip of this Earl Grey. It's my favorite. Okay, are we ready? So, I've already told you about how I'm reading The Benefactress by Elizabeth von Arnim. And so I've got that one here. I'm doing this as a buddy read with Barbara. So she's here tonight. Hello, Barbara. So we're working on that one. But also, I told you I'm totally going off my TBR, going rogue this month. For some reason, the mood reading has struck me, and I'm just totally going off kilt. What am I trying to say? You know what I'm trying to say. I'm not even going to search for that word. So I thought I would tell you about this book, which is another one that I'm currently reading. So this one is called Two in the Bush by Judith Hale Everett. And first of all, can we just stop for a moment and admire this beautiful cover? I'm not sure if the color is coming in quite so well on the screen as it looks in real life, but it's like really saturated and it has it just has this beautiful cover. So this is a series of books which I do not know much about. This is called the Branwell Chronicles, and I think I looked it up, and I think there's about six or seven of these in this series. And I don't know. I kind of think that they're about a different protagonist each time, and maybe they just live in the same area. But I have some more investigating to do. So if you are on Instagram, I had earlier this year, and I follow Books with Samantha, which account used to be called Books with Cordy. And I love her recommendations. She always has such good recommendations. Anyway, she recommended this book, and then she was talking about it, and she was asking, I think she was having a giveaway, and she was saying to share your favorite character from either Jane Austen or Georgette Heyer in the comments. And so I was commenting about some of my favorite characters in both of those. You all know I love Jane Austen, but I also have been loving Georgette Heyer, who I have been reading her mysteries this year, but I also have so many of her romances over here. She writes Regency romances. And apparently, according to Samantha, these books they are Regency romances, but according to Samantha, they're very similar to Georgette Heyer. And so I was interested. So I saved it. You know how you can save on Instagram? You just do like a little tag and you can save it. And so this is a current author, and usually I read vintage books. So it takes some thought for me to read current. I'm not against it. It just takes some thought for me to read current authors. Um, for multiple reasons, which we can get into another time. But um, Samantha was saying that this book was very much like a Georgette Heyer romance or like a Jane Austen romance. And you guys know that I am all in for that. And so I was like, so anyway, Samantha sent it to me totally unexpectedly, wasn't expecting it at all. She said that she just wanted to get me a copy of my own because she knew how much I loved those authors. She had the author of this one sign it to me. And it was just such a lovely, thoughtful gift from a very kind book friend on Instagram. So thank you again, Samantha, for this. But I started reading it like almost immediately. This is how far I've gotten in there. And I have to say that it is very, very much like Georgette Heyer, which I am thrilled about. So I wasn't sure because sometimes modern authors feel like they're trying too hard to be like a vintage author, and this does not have that feel. This so far, now I haven't finished it yet, but so far this has the feel of a Heyer book, Heyer book, but it doesn't feel like they're still using like the vocabulary. She still uses the vocabulary. She still uses kind of like the conventions of the time, and it doesn't feel forced, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And for that reason, I am really enjoying it. I am definitely continuing. Like I said, I may get through it in pretty quickly here because I've well, I haven't dropped everything else because I'm still reading The Benefactress, but other than that, this is the one that I have been currently reading. So something new to me, maybe something new to you as well. Again, this is book one of the Branwell Chronicles called Two in the Bush. It is about a an older protagonist, a widow who is coming into London with her daughter, and her daughter is being sponsored by this widow's friend to make her debut in the season, this year's season. It doesn't say exactly what year it is, but it's a Regency romance. So, and as they are starting to attend balls and all these things, the widow's friend's brother, are you with me here? Widow's friend's brother is also a widower. Yes, a widower. And so I think something's going to happen there. So we shall see. That I haven't gotten that far yet, but that is where all points are leading. So I will have to update you once I finish that one, but that is my current read. All right, I am going to come over to, oh my goodness, you guys have a lot here. Yay! I'm excited about this. I'm going to come over to, let's see, the comments here. Um, and I'm going to start over on Instagram because there's a little bit less over here and I can't put it over here. So Marita said she's reading a cozy mystery, Engaged in Death by Stephanie Blackmore. I love cozy mysteries. I got to write that down. Engaged in Death. Stephanie Blackmore. I'm coming back to that, Marita. That sounds really good. Over on Instagram too, I can't see your name here, but I think this says Webster 2144. And the book covers, you're saying the book cover is so pretty. It is so beautiful, isn't it? Um, I'm really enjoying just looking at it. So, all right, back over to YouTube. These ones I can pull up here. Marilyn finished book 3 and book 4 of Maisie Dobbs. I have been thinking about going back to book 3 for Maisie Dobbs. I'm glad you reminded me of that one. And started Georgette Hayer's These Old Shades. Ooh, Marilyn, I would love to know your opinion on These Old Shades. That is not one of my favorites. And when you get through, I would love to hear what you think because lot of different opinions on that one. Started Bleak House and finishing up Middlemarch that you started in the spring and just put down halfway through. I also have not finished Middlemarch, and that's one that I would like to get to. Maybe I'm gonna have to think about that in the new year. That sounds like a good um, New Year's one. I'm gonna think about that. Teresa is reading the Random House Book of Ghost Stories. Oh, weren't Teresa, weren't you the one who was telling us about the Newberry collections? This one sounds like a collection as well. Um, Lovely. Ghost stories are still in fall here, right? Ashley is reading Pilgrim's Inn by Elizabeth Goudge. Ooh, I'm going to be reading some Goudge in the near future too, in the new year. I already have it planned. So I haven't decided. One of my book friends and I, Elizabeth, are going to be reading Elizabeth Goudge, and we're deciding on a title. So, all right. Susan is saying that she's starting A Case of the Claws and no holly for Miss Quinn. This sounds like you are getting ready for holiday spirit, huh? These are holiday books. Lovely. Melissa is reading the second book in the Montmeret Journals trilogy. She's rereading them as Buddy reads with Jen and Elizabeth. The Montmeret, sorry, I'm saying it wrong, Montmeret journals. So who was telling us about Lori, I think, bless your memory. I don't think she's here tonight, but she was talking about this one, and that one looked good. The first one I saw. I don't know that I realized that there was more than one. So that sounds really fun as well. Martha is really enjoying The Santa Claus Murder by Mavis Dorial Hay. I have had my eye on that one, Martha. So as you all know, Mavis Dorial Hay was the featured author in our fall book box, and she only wrote 3 murder mysteries, and The Santa Claus Murder was one of them. I want to get my hands on that one, as well as the other one with Betty and Basil in it. What was the name? Murder Underground. It's a perfect Christmas murder mystery told by various viewpoints. Martha's getting into the Christmas season as well here. Lovely. Megan is reading Pat of Silverbush by Ella Montgomery, and The Crime at the Noah's Ark by Molly Tyne. Do we Thine? A Dean Street Press Golden Age Christmas time mystery. Oh, you guys are all getting into Christmas already. This is awesome. That sounds amazing. Dean Street Press, I love their books. So I haven't heard of that author though, so I have to look at that. Oh, Melissa is saying that the Montmirail Journals trilogy is by Michelle Cooper. So in case anybody is looking for that one, we were talking about that one, I think, as well, and a couple weeks ago. Karen is hoping to finish Celia's House tonight. Oh my goodness, Karen, that one I really enjoyed that one. So Celia's House, do I have it here? Yes, I do. This one, Celia's House. This is a D.E. Stevenson, and interesting. This one is so interesting on so many levels, but one of the things is that there is a retelling of Mansfield Park within this book, and it was just so interesting. So we may have to talk about that one again. So Barbara is saying she's she's reading The Benefactress, yes, and also My Cousin Rachel by Daphne du Maurier. I have heard very strong recommendations for reading My Cousin Rachel. I hear it's a good one. I've never read it. I think I've only ever read Rebecca by her. Um, and but I've heard really good things about My Cousin Rachel. So, oh, Marilyn is saying that she has the Santa Claus Murder out to read in December too. Awesome. Well, Teresa is saying good night. Everybody's talking in the chat. Let's see. Teresa is saying she found, oh, this is the Random House one that we were talking about earlier, that she found this title from Miranda Mills. So, ooh, and Susan is saying Pilgrim's Inn is a good Googe book to read. So, awesome. This is good to know. I'm going to keep that in mind. Marita is over on Instagram saying that the Santa Claus Murder sounds so good. I think we all want to read that at this point. We should maybe do an unofficial read along of that Santa Claus Murder. And Marita's also saying that I love My Cousin Rachel. So many good ones to put on my TBR. Oh my goodness, you guys. There is just an endless amount we could discuss of these books, which is why I love doing these book chats every week. So, all right. I think that that is the end of all of our currently readings. So we will end it here. We will, of course, not be here next week because next week is Thanksgiving. But in December, I have this idea of a fun thing we can do to celebrate Jane Austen. So looking forward to December. I can't remember if I have it scheduled for the first or second week of December, and I don't have my calendar in front of me, but I want to do a bookish this or that, and kind of like what do you think? And so I want to start to get your ideas rolling. I'm going to start with the question, who do we think is more awful? Do we think that Willoughby from Sense and Sensibility is more awful, or do we think that Mr. Wickham is more awful? And we will do other things like that, this or that. So bring your opinions on Jane Austen. We're going to celebrate her birthday. We're going to celebrate what we think about the different characters. And I think it's going to be so much fun. So that's just a little taste to get you started. So start thinking about who you like better and why, or who you think is worse and why, and who's the most awful of the kind of antagonists and who you think is most wonderful of the couples, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you have a wonderful, if you're here in America, wonderful Thanksgiving holiday next week. And we'll be back 2 weeks from now and we'll discuss all things Jane Austen. So I hope to see you there. Thank you for joining me tonight. As always, it's such a pleasure having you and so much fun for me. And I hope so much fun for you as well. So we'll talk to you again soon. Good night, all.